Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in. It is the Monday, May 23rd edition of the show. I'm Gary.
I'm Chris.
And we have got some football to discuss. Of course, last week, if you missed it, we did have a nice, fun conversation about the Saban and Jimbo press conferences. Chris, I'm sure that you saw that Greg Sankey came out and basically talked about, teams making just direct payments. They're not even doing NIL right now, and they've got to find a way to, curb that. And then, of course, the old ball coach. Did you see what Steve Spurrier said about this?
Yeah, I saw Steve.
Now, this happened on Friday. I completely missed it until Saturday, I think. Or maybe it happened on Saturday and I missed it until Sunday. But Spurrier came out and said, did Nick Saban say something that wasn't true? He said, I don't know why he's mad at Saban.
The problem is Steve knows this because Steve knows how the game is played, and he's been playing it he played it for a long time. It has been, but played it for a long time. When Nick said, and we've never paid a single player, yes, that's 100% not true.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick said several things that were not true in that statement. He said a lot of things that were true that he didn't like, but
Oh, of course. No,
it's perfectly acceptable to get upset with somebody because Jimbo's whole argument against it was go look at how he's done, dig into how he's done things forever, and act like it's always been fair and balanced, and he hasn't ever paid anybody. Like, yeah, that's what Jimbo was countering.
Yeah, of course.
So what the old ball coach, Mr. Spurrier, had wrong is that's what would really piss people off.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Jimbo did double down on his defense on Monday today. He said that only one of the 11 early enrollees in their number one rated recruiting class has an NIL deal. Which I don't know why he continues on this. But
here's the thing, though. Hang on. Once again, we're going to get back into semantics and time frames and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But these kids could have signed contracts, okay, when they chose to commit to A&M, but not gotten NIL deals yet. Like the NIL deal would be once you sign, once you've enrolled in school, you then – It then on this date, it triggers this contract being signed where you're going to get paid this much money for your first year, this much money for your second year, this much money for your third year, and if you stay a fourth year, this much money. And we don't know that because we don't have access to all of those contracts. So I'm certain Jimbo's not saying these things because he's going pretty hard that none of our guys have any of these NIL deals.
So I tweeted about this today. I was like, doesn't it seem strange that he continues on this saying that they don't know of anything that's going on? Because it is technically against NCAA rules if they did know something was going on. But the reason that he got so heated about players breaking state laws and their families breaking state laws and all that in his press conference on Thursday, it all in the state of Texas. This is why Quinn Ewers left and went to Ohio State for a year. It is against the law for high school players to sign NIL contracts. They cannot do that in the state of Texas. So,
but what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure Jimbo knows what he's doing. Like, this is his first rodeo. He's not a moron. He's a pretty sharp guy. And, for him to be this harsh on it, I'm certain that they've got this thing set up like a pretty well-oiled machine. They were the first to come out with a big collective. To think that they would have just half thrown it together just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right there. Like, they know what they're doing. It's strange that he is so he's denying it so much, so aggressively.
You're saying that's strange, but he has to because they don't have the deals done yet. Because they're not allowed to have the deals done yet because these kids are still technically in high school.
True. Yeah, the majority of them are.
Why would he like breeze by that? Why wouldn't he go in hard on that denial?
Okay. I mean, I do see where you're coming from. And again, of course, it is against NCAA rules. for the coaches to be involved in any of it. So, yeah, I mean, he has to deny it. And I totally get it.
I don't understand why, like, the fact that he's denying it is a big shock to you.
No, it's not that he's denying it. It's that he's being so aggressive with the denials, right?
He's being so aggressive with the denial because the other side accusing him is equally as aggressive. His denial has to equal the accusation.
Yeah, and there's definitely more of them coming out now, right? With Spurrier coming out and saying stuff, Greg Sankey coming out and saying stuff. There's a lot more smoke around it right now. I will certainly say that.
All of this makes sense, and once again, all this is really easily kind of done and figured out using contracts. Okay, you come to play at Texas A&M, you sign with us, and you're gonna get this NIL deal. And it, like, we can't renege on it, we can't pull back off of it. Like, it's a done deal. We just legally can't give it to you today.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
That's not a hard thing to put into contracts.
Yeah, I suppose you were probably right. You are probably right. Let's go on and talk about the first topic of the day here. And I guess Saban and Jimbo was really the first topic, but this one has to do with the SEC. Of course, the SEC spring meetings are coming up within the next week and a half, however long it is. And we have got some interesting stuff going on in the world of the SEC. And this will probably happen with some of the other conferences as well. But let's go on and bring up on the screen here. Pete Thamel's article at ESPN says, could the SEC stage its own college football playoff? It's all on the table at spring meetings. A lot of different topics of conversation to be had at the SEC spring meetings, just like there is across the country in college football, because the NCAA, we didn't really talk about this last week, but the NCAA basically said, you know what? Whoever wants to have a championship game, you can set it up however you want to do it. We don't care about divisions. We don't care about any of that stuff now. If you want to have your two best teams play instead of your two division winners, then you can do that. And the Pac-12 immediately did it. They said, yeah, we still got divisions this year, but we're not going to do division winners. We're going to have the two best, like two highest ranked teams play in the Pac-12 championship game. They're doing that this year. The Mountain West has said that they are doing it. The Big Ten, they deleted all of their future schedules for 2023, 2024, etc., that they already had done out in the last year or so. They went ahead and deleted all of those from their websites, from the team website to set. So they are obviously working on something. And now the SEC, who they still have to kind of redo some of this stuff with ESPN now that Texas and Oklahoma are coming in. The talk has been of pods. And they were discussing, because there will be 16 teams, having four-team pods. You and I have talked about this at length, Chris. With this situation, because of all the stuff that has gone on with the college football playoff expansion, Greg Sankey has talked about this. He has said, we're good with 4. It doesn't matter to us. Well, really, he can set up his own playoff. And they can do the winners of the 4 pods in a championship-style format. And the COVID season, you remember at the end of the year, we had extra games on the same day of the championship game, right? In this situation, the SEC could move to a 9-game conference schedule. And in doing that, they only have to schedule out 8 of them. And then that last Saturday can just be full of the Saturday before the championship Saturday. You can have a playoff. You can have a setup now where if the SEC decides, we're going to have 2 play-in games to the SEC championship game, and everybody else will just get to play whoever from another pod based on whatever record, etc., to see who gets set up best. The SEC could do this and make a whole lot of money off of it.
So you're talking basically a 4-team playoff.
Yeah, a 4-team playoff. SEC. Yeah, but set it up with a 9-game conference schedule where you only schedule out 8 games. That's where it could get very interesting. I'm curious your thoughts here on this whole, it's not drama, but it's definitely something that the SEC could take advantage of going forward. What do you think about it?
I mean, I'm for it. I'm for all this stuff. I mean, like I said, whatever gets us, a good champion and more games and all this stuff. I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not. Hell bent on any of it. So that would be interesting. I would like that because it would give us more football.
Most certainly, it would definitely give us more football.
So every team in the SEC would basically play 13 games.
Well, no, they would basically only play 3 non-conference games, and then they would play 9 conference games, and then whoever actually plays in the championship game would play 10. So that would be the extra, like the 13th game.
Now, would you seed it obviously 1-4, 2-3?
I think so. I don't think you would ever do. I don't think you would ever do like, hey, every year we're going to have this pod against this pod and this pod against this pod, right? Like you want your 2 highest ranked teams to possibly meet in the championship game. Like, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
So it doesn't have to be like divisions. It's just based on like seeding and whatnot. And I think that's probably the smart idea there.
Best way to do it.
Let's see. Part of this article says one variable that shouldn't be underestimated is that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey is still mad about the way the college football playoff expansion talks collapsed earlier this year. He's been openly vocal about his displeasure, and that's going to guide league decision-making. There's been a general erosion of trust on the collegiate commissioner landscape since the chaotic COVID-19-addled summer of 2020. This says, whatever collegiality existed among those 5 commissioners appears to be gone, said a veteran collegiate official. Sankey's in such a catbird seat right now. So really with this, if Greg Sankey and the SEC were to decide to go to a playoff format for their SEC championship, they wouldn't necessarily have to have the college football playoff expand, would they?
Well, not for them, no. It wouldn't change anything for the SEC schools. But it would still be better because they're still only going to get 1 or 2 representatives. In the other format, I mean, they realistically could get, 4, double that.
Yeah, I mean, they could absolutely get double that. But if you set up to where you have your own playoff and the money that you would get from ESPN for that, you wouldn't have to bank on the money coming from somewhere else because you're already going to get 2.
But you're looking at this strictly from a money aspect and not from another aspect of you want your teams to play other conferences.
Oh, most certainly.
You don't want this playoff just to play yourselves. You want your teams you want your 4th best team to play the number 1 team out of the ACC. Because you want to show the world your dominance over them. Well, yeah,
I mean, you've still got bowl season and whatnot that would be integrated in this. If the other conferences cannot get on board,
yeah, but hang on, whoa. See, this is the problem, Gary. This is why we need playoff expansion. You got to throw that bowl season record bullshit out the window. You know as well as I do, these teams that are competing for the national championship, as soon as they're not in the national championship, 60% of their roster is gone. Those bowl games mean nothing. So we don't have proper bragging rights. That's the reason the University of Texas thinks they're so goddamn good, because they've beaten like 3 SEC teams in bowl games. But they always play the second best SEC team that just happened to miss out on making the national title in 80% of their team leagues.
That's true. That definitely happened with Georgia.
Give me that you still have the bowl game stuff.
No, I'm with you.
That's a bullshit thing. I'm not doing that.
If I'm the SEC, though, you've already been through basically 2 years of talks about this college football playoff expansion that would really benefit all of these other conferences more so than the SEC. Like,
yes.
So if you're the SEC and you've already been at the table for 2 years saying, hey, we like this idea, but you got to make it appealing for us as well. You can't just limit it to 8 teams and only automatic qualifiers and blah, 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 blah. You got to make it where we can get more teams in because we are, in fact, the better conference. If they're not willing to come to the table and talk about expanding this thing out to 12 or 16 or however many teams, then why not stage your own playoff? And that way you're getting the money that you would have gotten from an expanded playoff anyway.
Because you're only looking at the money, and at some point in time, you're trying to compete against all 130 teams, and while the whole world sees your dominance, but they all see, oh, it's top heavy. Oh, it's top heavy. Because we got meaningless games being played in December with our teams against their teams. That's the reason why. Here's the deal. This is the best advice Sankey could be given right now. You got to take emotion out of this shit, okay? Have they pissed you off with how they handled the last couple of years in your negotiation? Yes. You still have to do the best deal you can do for yourself and for everybody else as a whole. Do not ever crush yourself or do something like that would be detrimental to you in the long term than just to make it a point and stick it to somebody else, because we don't know that the rest of the country outside of the South won't just get SEC fatigue. All right, because if the SEC is only playing against itself now all these times, then they're just not going to respect the fact that we're better than them.
It's true.
They're just not.
I don't think you're wrong there.
The same thing they're saying right now, which is you're top heavy, but nobody respects. Nationwide, nobody respected Ole Miss's 10-win season last year. You can't convince anybody from the Big 12 that Ole Miss was better than Texas or Oklahoma or Oklahoma State or Baylor. You're not gonna get that. Oh, well, they played in a bowl game, so look, we know who's better. Like you're just not gonna get that respect from people outside of your Alabamas and your Georgias right now. Nobody else carries that weight. Not LSU, not Florida, not Tennessee, not anybody else. I think the best thing for your conference is to take emotion out of this. If you can get to 12 teams and expand, don't fight them on that shit. Just do it. And also,
that's probably the right way to go about it.
To ESPN. Like, if they come back to you with the deal, like, if the deal's not openly detrimental to the SEC, then don't run away from it and not sign it just because they pissed you off the last 2 years. Like that's a rookie move. Like that's a dumb, inexperienced negotiator move. Is to let emotion drive your. And I'm an emotional guy. You know that. You listen to the last show. You know that.
Of course.
But like you can't let emotion drive business. You just can't.
Oh, most certainly. But at the same time, you are bringing 2 brand new teams in. You're going to have a 16-team conference. Major brands.
Okay. I need to hear what he wants. Then that he would walk, or that's a deal breaker for him that he would walk away from. Because I don't know, all I'm hearing him say is I'm mad about how the last 2 years have gone in negotiations. So I might do my own thing without you guys. And I think long term that's not good for the SEC, and it's not good for Greg Sankey.
Yeah, no, I say, all right, I think you're right. Sankey did say this. He said those unknowns are in our mind as we. Those unknowns are on our mind as we think about decision-making down the road. This is a fully dynamic environment. It's hard to understand where things will end up if you wait for this to play out. He said, we wanted to be good collaborators. We think we gave up a lot. What was viewed as a balanced approach, given the upfront demands, eventually fell apart. We also have
What is he talking about? What deal is he talking about?
He's talking about the CFP expansion.
Oh, give me the details, goddammit.
The details. They already came out with the details, remember? And then it was voted down by the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten.
Yeah, but we talked about why it was voted down, right? Does Greg Sankey understand that, right? He understands the reason they voted that down, because doing it the way Sankey wanted to do it was going to marry the whole thing to the ESPN.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All those other conferences have deals with Fox, and they want Fox to be a part of it. So
agreed.
If we get ESPN's contract to run out and they come back to the table with the exact same deal, but this time Fox gets a piece of that pie and it's an equal piece of the pie, then Greg Sankey, if he plays this high and mighty high horse that, I'm not negotiating with these guys anymore, we already tried this, like that just tells you he's 100% in the pocket of ESPN and does not care about anything else.
It's entirely possible. He said, we have the responsibility to think broadly about different possibilities, and the SEC will continue to do so. Because
I don't think there's any way on earth, once the contract is up, we're not going to 14 teams exactly the way it was explained out. I just don't see that happening.
You mean 12 teams?
100%. 12 teams, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're 100% doing that. I think that's doing it.
I think so, too.
Fox is the only holdup. They don't want to – and I think if ESPN was smart, ESPN would give up a little bit to break the deal now and get that, because I think that next deal is going to be even bigger than the one they get right now.
Oh, most certainly, because you're talking about a ton more games.
Yeah, start that new clock on the new deal today. Let's start it today, and not 3 years from now or whenever the hell their contract is up.
Yeah, I think that would be the smart way to go about it. It's just going to be interesting. Well, let's look at it from this perspective before we get into the Mountain West division today. Let's look at it from the aspect of, could they do this and still do an expanded playoff? Like, it would be the same number of games that you already have.
Well, yeah. If you're going to do the same number, this doesn't affect the playoff at all.
I don't think so either.
This doesn't change anything.
All it changes is the amount of money that the SEC will get, because if you have a basically in-season tournament to decide your SEC champion, that's going to be massive. I mean, the ratings are going to be huge.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand why it had to be one or the other. Like, why can't they do this no matter what, and then still fight for the 12-team playoff?
Well,
that doesn't make any sense.
The only difference here would be if ESPN is going to be involved in the playoff, how much money can they reasonably give the SEC for
all they need. That's how much. All they need.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're not running out of money, and they are spending all of these teams, all these companies, and hey, so if ESPN wants to say we're going to be in the SEC playoff, but we're not going to be in the big playoff. Okay, that's ESPN's call.
Yeah, and that's where I'm coming at.
If CBS says we don't come to any college football at all year, but we want a piece of it, whoever the highest bidder, once you get to the playoff number, nobody's married to anybody anymore, okay? Nobody gets any friends and family discounts. Everybody comes to the table with their best offer. And if the playoffs are played on Amazon and Apple TV, then by God, that's what we do.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I do not think you're wrong.
On Apple TV, break open the checkbook. And don't give me this, well, we gave you so much money for this other stuff. That's your call, man. I didn't put a gun to your head and make you do it. That's what that shit costs.
No, you're not wrong. Let me go ahead and knock out these podcast reads right quick. The website, winningcureseverything.com, is the site. It's got everything you need to know about us, all the different segments, etc., can be found over there. Go ahead and check it out, winningcureseverything.com. If you have not already subscribed to the podcast, please do so. You can go over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc., whatever your favorite app is. Go ahead and knock that out. And if they allow you to leave a review, leave a nice 5-star written review. That would certainly help us out. Same thing on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. The numbers are still steadily growing, even in the off season. I know we don't like using that word, but numbers are still growing. So it would certainly help us out there. Hit subscribe and do us a massive, massive favor and jump into the comments. That kind of stuff helps us out as well. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Gary WCE. Chris is at Chris B. Giannini, and the show is at Winning Cures. And you can always find my smiling mug over on BetUSTV.com. All right, so today we are going to jump on to the Mountain West Division. The Mountain West Division. We've already done the Mountain. But we have got a lot to talk about with the MWC. Of course, last season, Utah State beat San Diego State in the MWC title game. We've already talked about Utah State. And now we are going to talk about the other side. Chris, before we jump into it, initial impressions or your thoughts on the Mountain West Division.
Overall, I think it's better than the other side. And, I think some of these teams got a chance to be good. I think some of them scheduled really smartly also.
I tend to agree. We'll go on and dive into the first one here, and that would be the San Diego State Aztecs. And, of course, coached by Brady Hoke. I believe this is the third season with Hoke at the Realm. He has done a pretty good job. The Helm and not the Realm. What the hell am I talking about? So last season, 12-2, pretty damn good record. None of that was from the offense, Chris. Like, if they could get the offense rolling
with Brady Hoke.
Yeah, agreed. That defense is still rolling right along, even after Rocky Long left. They are rolling. They do have some massive losses on the roster, though. Defensive end Cam Thomas, tight end Daniel Bellinger, the punter Matt Areza, of course, punt god. Then, of course, you got both guards that were gone. The running back Greg Bell, cornerback Taylor Hawkins, guard Chris Martinez, etc. Defense is going to be replacing some people, but they've also got some really, really good guys coming back. Let's talk first about the offense. You have got to find a way to open this offense. I mean, this is just what they have done over and over again is not going to work. They were number 104 in PPA per drive, and that's just not going to win championships. The Virginia Tech transfer quarterback, Braxton Burmeister, is going to take over the offense. They are losing 3 starting linemen. They are losing 3 of their top 4 receivers, and they're losing their running back, Greg Bell. But with as bad as the offense was last year, I don't know that losing those guys necessarily matters. Of course, I say that, and it's preseason, but you get the point. The offensive line transfers that they brought in, they average 6'4" and 330 pounds. Now, they are replacing 3 starters, like I mentioned, but I don't think size is going to be an issue. The offensive coordinator, Jeff Heklinski, is likely still going to lean on the run here. But if they can find a way to open up this offense at all, that is going to help out the defense quite a bit. Moving over to the defense, it's been the bedrock of the program for a long time. That's likely not going to change this season. They have finished top 21 in scoring defense 6 of the last 7 years. The question here, of course, is going to be who replaces Cam Thomas. He had 27 tackles for loss last year. There are, again, still a bunch of studs on the defense. You got Keyshawn Banks, defensive end, linebacker Caden McDonald. You got the safety Patrick McMorris. Like you have got some real studs on this roster. Go on and give me your initial impressions on this. This team looks like they are going to compete again this year.
Yep, I agree with that completely. I think this team is going to be really good, probably the premier team in this conference, in my opinion. They lost some guys, but I think defensive guys, it's just a system that they've been running for a long time, and they seem to know what they're doing there. Offensively, I do not believe it's possible for them to be worse. And so I think with a Power 5 talent quarterback coming in transfer, that should help them take a big step forward. Got a lot of transfer in, and you brought up the offensive line revamping. I like this team. I think they're going to be really good. Now, schedule is a little bit different, okay? They got a couple of big Power 5 teams on there. I don't think they'll lose to all of them, but I think they might. And, I've got them not hitting that double-digit mark again, but I think safely 8-4 wouldn't shock me if they were 9-3.
I've got 8-4 on this team. You mentioned the offense. They were number 126 in explosive play rate via their passing game last year. It don't get much worse than that.
But they don't do that, though.
Agreed.
This is one of those things. We talked about this with another team not too long ago. I don't remember when.
It was Utah State.
Utah
State doesn't run the ball.
Yeah, with the run the ball. You can't say, well, they're just really bad at this. Yeah, but if they're really good at all the other things and that's just something they don't do, then, at what point in time are we going to realize they're winning ball games in spite of that, and they don't care about that?
Well, I think that if Utah State can at least say, we're really good at throwing the football, so we don't worry about running it, right? With San Diego State, they don't run the ball well either. They were number 98 in rushing success rate.
You're right, but the problem is, Gary, is if you can't throw the ball well, that destroys your defense because you're going to turn the ball over. If you can't run the ball well, that doesn't hurt your defense at all. It eats up clock. It has you on the sidelines just as long as you would be normally. So, it doesn't – not a lot changes on the thing that you're really good at.
True.
If you try to throw the ball and you suck at throwing the ball, you're going to crush that great defense of yours.
Yeah, no, you were not wrong. You were not wrong. As we said, the defense still going to be strong even with losing Cam Thomas. The question is, can Brady Hoke adapt and evolve a little bit? Even if he doesn't, this is still going to be a really good team. I've got them 8-4. I've got them losing to Arizona and Utah. Got them losing at Boise, and I've got them losing at Fresno State. Could we see them beating any of those teams? Absolutely. Yeah. They beat Utah last year.
I actually, the reason I said 9-3 is because I think there's a really good chance they might beat Arizona.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they're favored.
I think they're a better team than Arizona.
The early lines, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, are they favored?
I think they're favored over Arizona in the early lines. I'm going to look at FanDuel right quick and see. But looking at this team, if they beat Fresno on the road, would not shock me. If they beat Boise even on the road, would not shock me. And they did beat Utah last year. Granted, the game was at home. So none of it would surprise me whatsoever. So I think possibly, let's see. FanDuel does not have it listed. So, but yeah, I think that they're favored by like just a few points. Well, and they play on the road, so
that doesn't surprise me. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not like Arizona's got some wild home crowd.
No, absolutely not. It's the first week of the season, and San Diego State.
You're not walking into the big house there, okay?
San Diego State is favored by 5. And they're not playing at Arizona. They play Arizona at home. And, yeah, favored by 5 with a total of 50.5. That's per circa.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they beat Arizona. I do think Arizona's going to be drastically improved this year.
We think they're going to be better, but they got a long way to improve before they're better than good G5 teams, right?
I think you're right. I think you're right on that. All right, let's.
They were pretty far down that rabbit hole. Bad.
Oh, big time. All right, let's move into the Fresno State Bulldogs, and of course, taking over Fresno State this year, Jeff Tedford. He is back. He retired due to medical issues not that long ago, and Kalen DeBoer took over, ran the ship for 2 years, got him to 9-3, and then won a bowl game last year, so 10-3. And now Tedford is back. Kalen DeBoer has moved on over. He is coaching at Washington now, but he does leave behind quarterback Jake Haener, running back Jordan Mims, wide receiver Jalen Cropper. The defense is pretty good. Like if you talked about this team last year, you probably wouldn't have talked much about the defense. But man, with guys like Evan Williams, the safety, and the defensive end David Perales, they're going to be pretty good on defense again, I think. Even with that, they are missing defensive end Aaron Mosby and the cornerback Darren Bland, but I think they're going to be pretty good. Like this looks like a fun team. They're losing the running back Ronnie Rivers, wide receiver Keurig Wheatfall, and then of course the right tackle. Let's hit on the offense first here. DeBoer left, but he was the OC at Fresno under Tedford. And then, of course, with Tedford back, I would imagine having Haener back.
Everything's going to look the same.
Yeah, they're going to look the same. They got a ton of playmakers and a pretty good offensive line here. The explosive play rate could possibly stand to be improved. They were number 81 in explosive plays on offense. They might get better at that, having Jordan Mims be the premier back instead of Ronnie Rivers. He's a utility back. He's really, really good. Can the offensive line fix their, rushing success rate? I mean, they were number 50 last year. It's still pretty good, but they were number 8 in passing success rate. So if Haener is dealing, I mean, why mess with it, right? Why mess with it? Offense is pretty good, and I would imagine it will continue to be under Tedford. On the defense, it didn't feel great, like I said, but, man, they were number 18 in defensive PPA per drive last year, and that is elite. Like, they are really good. They need to limit the explosive play rate on this side. They were number 96. They gave up a ton of explosive plays, per the number of plays that they actually ran. The linebacker and the secondary positions are loaded, absolutely loaded with talent. Defensive line lost 4 of the 6 players that got at least 225 snaps. But they do have Stanford defensive end Joshua Picola coming in as a transfer. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the defensive end Perales is a star. Man, give me your ideas here. Like I'm curious your initial impressions.
Yeah, almost the yin to the yang of San Diego State for these first 2 teams. Got them 8-4 as well, and I think it's going to be good offense, improved defense, and maybe not improved because they were pretty damn good in some areas. I just think they're going to. I don't know. I think they're going to be better. And yeah, I like this team. I like that they kept most everybody around. Normally when a G5 coach leaves for a P5 job, their first instinct is to think, well, I've got a bunch of studs at the place I'm at now. They got me the job. Let's bring a bunch of them on. And it usually doesn't work out well because just because you're a great G5 player doesn't mean you're a monster P5 player.
True.
And so I think it was smart for either of these guys to stay where they were at, and or for him to not bring him over to the Pac-12. But I'd rather live in, Fresno than live in Seattle right now. So
I agree. I
so yeah, I think if you're talking about where I got to live and get to play football, give me Fresno over that. So anyway, no, I like this team. I think Tedford's going to be just fine, and they're gonna win a lot of ball games.
I think their schedule sets up absolutely brilliantly. Like you could not have asked.
Are you thinking double digits?
I've got them at 10-2.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I think the schedule is brilliant, and that's with them starting 1-2. Now, would it shock me if they go 9-3, 8-4? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My keys to the season here is let Haener cook. Don't change the offense that ran last season much. Develop the offensive line because the rushing PPA was number 111 last season. Their success rate was good, but their predicted points added was not great. Develop the defensive line quickly. Make sure and keep the havoc rate up. They were number 28 in the FBS last season in havoc rate. If you can find a way to limit explosive passes, that would certainly help. The secondary, it looks a little more stacked this year than it did last season. They were number 117 in explosive passes allowed last year. So you want to improve that.
So my thought on this is so on this side of the football, on this side of the conference, I guess I should say, styles make fights. And the team I think that you're going to be matched up against for this division, I believe, is San Diego State. And if you're going to be weak anywhere and that's your biggest opponent, you want to be weak in the secondary because that's not a threat for them.
Exactly.
So that's why I do like Fresno, and I kind of made that a coin flip game. The reason I've got the other team, San Diego, is at maybe 9, but definitely 8, is because I don't know that they win this game. This is the coin flip game for both of them.
Well, the San Diego State game is in Fresno this year. Listen to the way that the schedule shapes up, all right? You got Cal Poly, and then you've got Oregon State and at USC. Now, I've got them losing both of those. But then you've got
because I think Oregon State's much, much improved.
Yes, agreed. So starting off 1-2, and then you've got a bye week. You play at UConn. They've got 6 away games. But the away games, with USC being one of them, obviously that hurts. Probably going to lose that one. You got at UConn, then at Boise, which I've got them winning that game. They could certainly lose it. But after that, you've got San Jose State at home, at New Mexico, San Diego State at home, Hawaii at home, at UNLV, at Nevada, and Wyoming. Your away games are USC, UConn, Boise, New Mexico, UNLV, and Nevada. But
you're just not sweeping at home. This is where you and I always have this conversation. I don't chalk up W's because of home and away games. I just don't. It never seems to work out that way.
Oh, agreed.
Just doesn't.
But I look at it as the ones that they're playing at home don't necessarily scare me a lot either. Like San Jose State could be pretty good, maybe, but they're losing a bunch too.
The argument is Fresno State and San Jose State. Like those are the two teams that are going to challenge them, right? We agree on that, right?
Well, we're talking, San Diego State, and do we think San Jose State's going to compete?
Well, in comparison to Nevada, I do.
Well, most certainly, right? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
They get New Mexico, UNLV, and Nevada.
So on this side of the ball, on this side of the division, they've got one real threat and one possible threat in those two teams. All right? But just because you get those two threats at home doesn't mean we can just chalk that up to a W.
No, you're right.
That's why I call them coin flip games. I do think they're better than San Jose State. That's why I have them beating them. But I'm not just giving them the win at Fresno, and I'm not just giving San Diego, and I'm not just giving San Diego that win.
Agreed. So. Absolutely agreed. But to say that the schedule did not set up well would be a farce, I think. This schedule
it does.
I
started this with some of these teams have scheduled very nicely.
Oh, yes. They definitely did. Let's see. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. The Nevada Wolfpack. And some people say that you pronounce this Nevada, but we live in Mississippi, so we're going to say Nevada. That's the way this is going to go. The Wolfpack, of course, they lost basically everybody that really mattered.
Everybody that mattered.
Yeah. Ken Wilson.
Everybody that mattered.
Yeah. So I put down quarterback Carson Strong, wide receiver Romeo Dabbs, tight end Cole Turner, and then I put head coach Jay Norvell was one of the biggest losses on the roster.
Yep.
And then I put basically everybody. They lost.
Probably the biggest loss.
Oh, yes. My gosh. They lost 8,500 plus snaps to graduation or the draft. And then they lost another 3,000 snaps to transfer. They are number 130 in returning production this year. Number 131 on offense, number 130 on defense. They went 8-5 last year. Their post-game win expectancy record last year was 6.47 and 5.53. So you're really looking at about a 6-6 team that went, 8-5 instead, right? 6-6 in the regular season, and they ended up going 8-4. Their roster strength is a little better on offense because of some of the transfers that they brought in. Let's talk about the offense first. Shane Illingworth, the quarterback from Oklahoma State, the backup. He is going to be the starting quarterback for first-time offensive coordinator Derek Sage. Sage has been in Nevada doing all kinds of things. He coached under Chris Ault. He coached under Mike Leach at Washington State. So you would imagine that you've got an idea of what he looks like, right? Arizona wide receiver B.J. Castile should pair well with Jamal Ball and the running back Toa Tau. I don't even know how to say this name. I've tried it 1,000 times. He was all Mountain West last year, and he did come back at running back. Even if there's not a lot of offensive line help, he's one of those guys that can make people miss. So we'll move over to the defense here. The defensive tackle, Dom Peterson, he's a stud, but there's not a lot else on the defensive line. The linebacker, Josiah Bradley, is good at linebacker, but everything else is wait and see. You got a few key pieces that could be good. And then other than that, it's just we'll see what we get. There are 4 players with more than 300 snaps returning in the secondary. That's pretty good. They were number 62 in defensive passing success rate allowed. They've got 7 players that had over 150 snaps in the secondary, but they did lose both starting cornerbacks, so that's another wait-and-see situation there. Give me your thoughts on Nevada and the Wolfpack and what you think they'll be this year.
The Wolfpack is very much a all hopes and future situation. I don't think it's going to be good. I think they're going to struggle. I think, thank God, that they get to play New Mexico and UNLV and some of these other schools. I've got Nevada at 5-7. I think I was being generous.
I think you were as well. I have them at 3-9. 3-9.
I felt like, and I'll tell you this. I think. All right, so honest question here then from you, and we're maybe cats out of the bag for the next team. Where are we at with UNLV, and is Nevada falling behind them?
I think they are for this year.
They're pretty damn close. If they're not,
yes.
Rather they're better than them or worse than them, the argument can be made that they're close enough where both those teams ain't anything you want to tell your mama about.
I mean, I've got them losing the last game of the year at UNLV.
But you got that because it's at UNLV.
No, not so much. I think UNLV is going to be slightly improved. They really
that might be true, Gary. And
yeah.
You might really think that, but your history of how you've done things, I think if it was at Nevada and you saw it with fresh eyes and we never had this conversation, you'd give that nod to Nevada.
You might be right about that. You might be right. But I will tell you this: I do have them losing that game.
Doesn't matter.
So
yeah,
they do.
Yeah, because I had a hard time with them in UNLV. I basically had both of them winning 4 games, and I kind of said, okay, one of them might get to 5, one of them might be at 3, but I think they're both bad.
I can certainly agree with that. My keys to the season here: Ken Wilson has not been an OC or a DC or anything. He's been a position guy, but he did coach under Chris Ault, Mike Leach, and Mario Cristobal. But this is a big leap to being a head coach.
That's right.
So another key here: establish chemistry, get the team on the same page early. There are 3 winnable games right out of the gate. They can play at New Mexico State, Texas State, and Incarnate Word. You get those 3, you start to gain a little confidence and whatnot. figure out some of the stuff that you got. Maybe 3-9 or 4-8 or whatever is something that can be avoided. But I've got here looking at last year's numbers, like none of them matter. You got to get Shane Illingworth comfortable because behind him is Nate Cox, who was decent as a backup, but he got like 40-something snaps last year and was okay, but like, you know what you got with Illingworth, I think. And so I would get him comfortable. It's going to be a rough stretch after those first 3 games. You got at Iowa, at Air Force, Colorado State, at Hawaii, San Diego State, at San Jose State, Boise, Fresno, and at UNLV. Like, that is a rough stretch for anybody that wasn't replacing basically the entire roster.
The entire roster and staff.
Right, and having a first-year head coach that's never even been a coordinator. Like,
yes. All of these things combine to being really ugly. Really ugly.
Now, let's say something positive here. There's a coach in the SEC that did really well last year that had never been a coordinator either, and that would be Sam Pittman. So maybe you can establish the culture early and get something rolling here, but it don't look good. I'll certainly say that. It really don't look good.
The difference between Sam followed now, and I love Sam, and I'm not going to besmirch him, not one iota. But the difference between this and Sam is Sam has 2 OCs and DCs, 2 coordinators that are head coach material. Also.
Oh, most certainly.
They basically have 3 guys on that team that could run their own program, and that helps. That helps a lot.
You have got that right.
I love Sam, and I love what he is doing. And I ain't going to say one bad thing about him, but to try to say, well, coaches who've never been coordinators before have succeeded in the past, well, then you better go get other guys that have been head coaches to be on your staff.
Agreed.
Because somebody's going to have to pick up the slack. This shit ain't magic. It ain't going to happen overnight.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. The San Jose State Spartans are next, and of course, anybody that's watched this show long enough knows how much we appreciate Brent Brennan. Went 5-7 last year, but the post-game win expectancy numbers paint a different story. 3.5 wins was their post-game win expectancy, and they ended up winning 5. Now, you can say that that's coaching, that they were able to win some games that they probably should not have, but it definitely doesn't set them up well for this year. They lost quarterback Nick Starkel, who was only able to play in 7 games last year, so that definitely did not help. Running back Tyler Nevins is gone. The left tackle Jack Snyder, who was really good, he's gone. Safety Jay Leonard and the tight end Derek Deese Jr., who was just a monster. He is gone as well. But they do return a lot on a defense that was pretty good. They were number 20 in the country in returning defensive production, number 64 on offense. The defense, as far as roster strength goes, number 45 in the country. Like, that is P5 level. Like, defense was really good. They were number 34 in defensive PPA per drive. But let's start off with the offensive coordinator. The offensive side of the ball. The OC, Kevin McGivern, enters his 5th season here. The offense was just a disaster last year. After being so good in 2020 in that COVID season, they just had a ton of turnovers, negative plays, but they did get a transfer in here, and that transfer was quarterback Chevin Cordero from Hawaii. Can that quarterback and the wide receivers that came over from Nevada, can those improve the numbers that they had on offense? They were number 109 in passing success rate last year, number 117 in offensive PPA per drive. Like, that is brutally bad. Starkel, he was injured in week 4. He missed 5 games. He started the last 3 games of the season. They were all losses. Like, the numbers were not good. He never came back fully healthy, it didn't look like. As far as the defense, like I said, loads of experience and upside on all 3 levels here. Defensive end, Fehoko, and the linebacker, Kyle Harmon. And then, of course, cornerback, Nehemiah Shelton. And then you got safety Trey Jenkins. These are all guys that could be NFL draft picks. Secondary was
these are
awesome.
Sunday guys, man.
Oh, 100%.
Could be Sunday guys.
Oh, yeah. Secondary was number 75 in pass success rate allowed. They returned 2 cornerbacks with 500-plus snaps. And, of course, the safety Jenkins returns. And they did bring up a transfer, USC transfer, Chase Williams, who he may end up being the most talented guy in the secondary. Give me your record here. What are you looking at for this team?
So I like this team, I think, better than you do. I've got them flipping their record from last year. I've got them 7-5.
I have them 6-6.
Okay.
I do like.
I was wondering if you were 5-7 still, or if you were giving them a bump.
Oh, I'm giving them a bump, and I could see them 7-5 for sure. My losses here, I've got them losing to Auburn. I've got them losing to Western Michigan, which they could easily win that game. I've got them losing to.
That's a game I think it's a coin flip.
Oh yeah, at Wyoming, I've got them losing that one. At Fresno, at San Diego State, and at Utah State. I've got those as losses. Their road schedule is not forgiving. I will certainly say that.
Nope. They definitely have, I think, the toughest schedule on like this side of the bracket.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I think they're pretty tough.
That's I would tend to agree with you. Going to Auburn and then bringing Western Michigan in, like that's rough.
But Western Michigan, so all of them play a P5 school that we think they're probably going to lose to. Most of them play another G5 school that's not a Mountain West team that I kind of favor so far in doing this in this division. I kind of favor all the Mountain West teams over all the other divisional teams that they play. This is the one where I think you're right. I don't know that I can favor them over Western Michigan.
Yeah, that's even with the game at home. Western Michigan. I trust Tim Lester. I trust what he does. So
they're tough.
Yeah, that's a tough football team.
I mean, that's a tough. We talk about this, Mac. Football. These are tough kids, man. But I think it's a coin flip game. You
are not wrong. My keys to the season here: find a way to stop turning the ball over on offense. They were number 127 in turnover margin last year. They got to try and find some kind of consistency on that side of the ball, and then they cannot lean on the defense for everything. I put in here defense has some studs. Transfers and youngsters need to step up quickly. And then I put they went 4-2 in one-score games last year and still went 5-7. Without a steady offense, that could easily regress this year. They've got to score more points this season. So I've got them at 6-6. I don't think they're going to go 4-2 in one-score games again. Like I'm sure that will probably regress to about 3-3. But I think that the defense is good enough, and with Cordero at quarterback, and then of course the wide receivers Cook and Lockhart, I think that those guys are really good. So I've got them at 6-6. Not bad. And Chris just dropped out, and we're gonna let him jump back in here. But yes. So with San Jose State, I've got them 6-6. We got two more that we're gonna try and knock out because I may have some noise in my office here in just a minute. Chris, we got you back.
Yeah, I got you back. Sorry, man. I think Zoom, once we get close to an hour, just says I'm done. Because it's happened at like the 57-minute mark both times, and my Wi-Fi is lightning fast right now.
I do wonder about that.
I don't know, man.
I don't either.
So
I don't either. Either way,
it's weird that the time happened at the same time.
Two straight times
when it happened last.
Well, we will see.
I'm here. I got you. What team we on?
We are moving on to the Hawaii Warriors here. Let me go and write my time down. Hawaii. This one could get very interesting. The Rainbow Warriors. Of course, last year, everybody that paid his attention to college football, if you haven't paid attention in the offseason, first off, we understand. I get it, even though there is no offseason. Todd Graham was fired in, February, I think?
Yeah.
And they ended up hiring Timmy Chang. And for those longtime viewers of this sport, you will remember him because he would fling the ball all around in June Jones's run-and-shoot offense. It was a lot of fun. This team went 6-7 last year, and then they just had a mass exodus as far as transfers go. Like, everybody left this team. Timmy Chang has never been a coordinator.
And we had some problems in the program. Todd Graham was obviously a complete and utter disaster.
Yes.
It's just
a lot of players said that he was verbally abusive and all that, and it's just old guard kind of stuff that you got to be able to adapt from, and Graham never did, right?
Right.
So then they bring in Timmy Chang, who is the hero that has always been loved by everybody at Hawaii for as long as you can look back. He has not been a coordinator at any level yet, but he is the guy that they have helmed to maybe try and clean this up. I will tell you this: the program is not willing to put in the money right now that you need to be a successful program.
We think this is a stopgap thing, don't we? I do. Do you?
I think they're hoping that it can turn into more. I think they're going to give Timmy Chang a lot of leeway. They're not just going to fire him after like 3 years if he doesn't show it. I think this is like 4 or 5 year stretch because they're going to get the stadium redone. Like they're already working on that. They're going to do a lot of different things, but they're still trying to nickel and dime this, from what I understand. And I don't know how you can be successful in the Mountain West by nickel and diming your way through it, right?
Well, what I was saying is I think this is all about the stadium. I think they're not even going to try to focus on competitiveness or anything of that nature until the stadium's done.
Yeah.
Now, I might be wrong on that, but I think it's going to be really hard to recruit and to compete at a real level of any substance at all playing in a practice field for several years.
Yes. They are playing in front of about 3,000 people. It's not good.
I will take the under on that.
They
will not be playing in front of 3,000 people. It holds 3,000.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They ain't gonna be playing in front of 3,000.
They are number 131 in returning production. Dead last in FBS. 25% of their production is back, and that even includes transfers coming in. Like the transfers that they are bringing in are guys that have not played. So this could be very interesting. On top of that, you lost 10 starters on offense. You lost 7 starters on defense. You lose Chevin Cordero. You lose big play wide receiver Nick Mardner. You lose stud defensive end Jonah Lualu, who went to Oklahoma. You lose linebacker Darius Mwasau. You lost every kind of playmaker that you got. They went 6-7 last year. They were not bad, right? Post-game win expectancy was 6.59 and 6.41, so they were right around where they should have been. Maybe should have been 7-6 instead, but regardless, it is what it is. This team, you can throw out every number from last year. Like none of it matters. Their projected SP Plus record is 4-8, which is silly. 4-9. Sorry, because they play 13 games. They bring in. So let's talk about the offense first. Eastern Washington offensive coordinator Ian Shoemaker takes over as the OC, and this is his first FBS job. But if you've paid attention to FCS, Eastern Washington's offenses are a lot of fun. Like they really move the ball around quite a bit. You got to figure out who's going to be your starting quarterback. You got Joey Yellen from Pitt. You got Kamen Cooper from Washington State, who was a backup, and then you got sophomore Braden Shaker, who was a backup at Hawaii. So 3 guys that have been backups are all going to be vying for this job. And then you're starting from scratch as far as playmakers go. You got running back Dedrick Parson. He's a dual threat playmaker, but you don't have a lot of talent in the receiving core. Offensive line at least looks kind of solid. So, maybe that's good, I guess. As far as the defense, Jacob Yoro is the DC. He was the co-DC in 2020 in Todd Graham's first year. And he was also a coach with Nick Rolovich. So there's at least a little bit of continuity there, even if there's not with players. They did bring in 7 P5 defensive transfers. The defense does look decimated other than the transfers that have come in. Again, numbers from last year do not matter. They were number 61 in defensive PPA per drive, but you can't gather that this will be anywhere close to that. You just got to hope that the chemistry hits with these new guys and that the DC Yoro knows what he's doing, who is now on his 3rd Hawaii staff. Give me your record here. What do you think?
I think they're 2-10, and I think they're just going to struggle. And I don't know that they'll win 2 games.
I've got them 3-10. I've got them beating Nevada at home, but I could easily see them losing that game. The other 2, Duquesne and at New Mexico State. This will tell you, we really don't think highly of New Mexico State.
No.
Man. If they get something there's ways I could see this going well because Hawaii has always done pretty well. But, man, if you just look at the roster and look at the schedule, like, this is not a good setup at all. Their first 3 games are Vandy, Western Kentucky, and at Michigan. I don't see how they win any of those, even though they've got Vandy and Western Kentucky at home. Like, travel to Hawaii is kind of rough, but I don't know, man. They brought in 11 P5 transfers. My keys to the season here: develop chemistry early, hope they pick the right quarterback. Offense is going to need to develop wide receivers early, and they'll luckily have a relatively steady offensive line to lean on. Defense, transfer city needs to gel quickly with 3 relatively tough non-cons to start things off. Like, I've got them 3-10. You've only got them winning 2 ball games?
2 ball games.
2-11. Whew. That is rough. That's a rough season when you got 13 games to play instead of the normal 12. Like, that extra game is just ugh. They closed the season at San Jose State, by the way. So just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. All right, we'll close out with UNLV here. UNLV, this is a tricky one, right? Very tricky. Marcus Roy,
I got them a little better than I originally thought.
That's so they went 2-10 last year.
Which was better than that.
Yeah. So they were 2-10 last year. The post-game win expectancy really said they should have been 3-9, but they went 8-4 against the spread. They were pretty good. They did really well with 2 touchdown wins over Hawaii and New Mexico. They scared 3 Mountain West contenders last year.
Yeah,
like they were in some ball games that they maybe should not have been in, and it had nothing to do with their offense. Like, Marcus Arroyo was the OC at Oregon when, oh my God, what's the quarterback's name that plays for the Chargers?
Herbert?
Yes, Justin Herbert.
Herbert?
He was the OC at Oregon for Justin Herbert, which led everybody to think, man, we should probably be betting against Marcus Arroyo, because if his thing is offense and he couldn't figure out how to use Justin Herbert, then how is he going to lead a program? But in this situation here, like, let's talk about the offense first. Well, their big losses: they lost running back Charles Williams, they lost wide receiver Steve Jenkins, and they lost defensive end Jacoby Windman. Let's start off with the offense. Pretty much anything is an improvement. They were number 109 in offensive PPA per drive last year, 121 in rushing success rate, number 110 in passing success rate. But with as few plays as they had on offense, they ended up number 9 in the country in offensive explosive play rate. Now, the reason why is because they did not have the ball that much. Like, that's that's the biggest thing. So when they did hit big plays, the ratio was thrown off, right? So that's why it looks a little crazy. They pretty much anything is going to be an improvement on offense. They brought in quarterback Harrison Bailey, who was at Tennessee. And Bailey, like, can he beat out Cameron Friel for the job? That's the question. Friel was a freshman last year and won the starting job, ended up starting, I think, 7 games. They've got 3 guys that played meaningful snaps last year, and they never really settled on any of them. Like, Friel was the closest thing to settling as they could, but I think Harrison Bailey can beat him out. The other part is you got to limit the turnovers, and you got to find a playmaker somewhere. They don't have any playmakers on this team, at least from last year. The wide receiver, Kyle Williams, did show some flashes last year, but he, we'll see what he ends up doing this year. As far as the defense, decent against the run. They were number 30 in defensive rushing success rate allowed. But, man, I think that had to do with the fact that everybody could pass on them, because they were number 121 in passing success rate allowed. The front 7 looks promising. They need experienced secondary to play above their heads this year. They've got 4 players with 400-plus snaps back. Give me your thoughts on Arroyo's third bunch here.
I think they're going to be much improved from last year, and I used the word much, I think, correctly. I got them 4-8, Gary. I think this team's going to be better. I think they're still going to be a bad football team, but I think they're going to be better than the seller that they have been.
Brother, me and you are in the same boat here. I've got them 4-8. My 4 wins are Idaho State, New Mexico, at Hawaii, and Nevada. I think this is and I think they're going to scare some teams that maybe you wouldn't expect, right? At Utah State, North Texas, something like that. Could they sneak up and beat San Jose State? Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a step in the right direction. Like Arroyo, like at some point, like his offense has got to do something, I would imagine. By the way, big thing about this team, they did turn the football over a lot last year, but they were number 7 in the country in penalties per game. Really, really good. Like they did not beat themselves a whole lot. They just weren't all that talented. So
that's the mark of a well-coached team.
Yeah. So I would imagine that they do take another step forward. The keys to the season here leaned a lot on youth last season. They showed a lot of potential with 2 touchdown wins over Hawaii and New Mexico. And like I said, they scared 3 Mountain West title contenders. This is still a really long rebuild. The roster strength still sits at number 122 per the guys over at CFB Winning Edge. How much do transfers like wide receiver Ricky White from Michigan State and the running back Robbins out of Louisville help? Those guys could absolutely be playmakers, and that could flip that offense around quickly, very quickly. So as far as returning production goes, number 41 in the country, number 27 in the country on defense. So they got some experienced guys. Like this should be a lot of fun, and again, step in the right direction. It is a step in the right direction. So who have you got winning the division?
I'm going with San Diego State.
I've got Fresno State because I've got them undefeated in conference. And so, okay, I could see either one of those. I don't think anybody else really competes for the title.
I agree. I agree completely with that.
And so, yeah,
I think it's a 2-horse race. There's a world where we've been wrong on this, and the only team that I think can sneak up on them this year and have a surprise year is the Spartans.
I tend to agree. San Jose State. Nevada, I've got 3-9, Hawaii 3-10, UNLV 4-8.
Yeah, I'm struggling to get those teams to 4 wins. Not even to like 500. 4 wins. Yeah. And some of those I think I'm being generous on. So I just don't see a world where that's it. This is very top heavy compared to the other side. The other side of the ball, I just don't think it's super impressive all the way around. But I think we got 2 real good football teams here.
I think you're right. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch, see what San Diego State ends up doing with their offense, see what Fresno State looks like with a brand new head coach. So as far as experience and whatnot goes, like I think you got to tip your hat to San Diego State on that one. But it's not like Tedford doesn't know what he's doing with a Fresno team.
No. I like Tedford and I like
Brady Hoke.
Gosh, Brady. And I think it's fitting that they're the 2 best teams in this division because their styles clash so much.
I tend to agree. Agree.
There aren't a whole lot of similarities, and they basically contrast one another.
You got that right. All right, buddy. Is there anything else that we need to hit on today?
No, that's it, bro.
You see the stuff about Bill Belichick?
No.
Belichick is working with the offense almost exclusively in minicamp.
Oh, yeah.
And when people were asking who's going to be the play caller since he hasn't named an offensive coordinator, he said, "What plays are we calling right now? Minicamp plays?" He said, "We'll get to it when we get to it."
I'm telling you, I love the man. I love the man so much. I think he's trying to do everything by himself. He won't hire a defensive play caller or a coordinator. He won't hire an offensive coordinator. He refuses to hire a general manager. If they win this year at any level at all, I'm talking 9-8. Somebody needs to have real considerations for this might be his best coaching job.
Because he's handling all of it.
He's doing everything, and he refuses to hire anybody. Half the staff is his damn kids. And here's the thing, I think it's just he just doesn't want to work with anyone else. He sees how some of these coaches act and handle things, and he just doesn't trust them. And this kid he can take home and beat the shit out of.
That's a very interesting way to look at this.
I don't think he does that. I'm not saying he does that. I'm just saying you can control your kid a hell of a lot more than you can control some jackleg that you hire. and put in a position and give them a leadership role.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Oh my gosh, it's so wild. He brought Joe Judge back. He brought
Matt Patricia
back.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't even give Patricia the DC job back.
That's so nuts. That's so nuts.
I was 100% positive he was going to be the DC hire because he just knows him. They were really successful with Matt. Matt knows exactly how Bill wants to do things. And he's like, nope, you come back, but you're demoted. He's such a dick.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, Lord. All right. Anything you want to hit on?
No, let's go, brother. I love you. Appreciate you. Thank you for dealing with my technical issues. And have a good one.
It happens. I love you too, buddy. All right, everybody else,
Bye.
Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and hopefully all your tickets cash this week. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a